The man wakes up in a cold prison cell, discarded and humiliated. But just 2 months back, he was the most popular playwright of Britain, loved by everyone, and considered one of the greatest minds of his time. So what changed? How does a man go from standing ovations to silence? From royal halls to a concrete prison? That too, this quick. This is the story of Oscar Wilde, a man who became too popular for his own good. But before being a prisoner, Oscar Wilde was a megastar. Newspapers didn't describe him as just a writer, they called him a cultural phenomena. People copied how he dressed, how he spoke, how he styled his hair, and his flamboyant and flashy appearance. And just last year, in 1890, he had launched his novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and it became an overnight sensation. But alongside being an extremely popular writer, he also used to do theatre, and it was here where he met this woman, Constance Lloyd, and it was love at first sight. Basically, when he first saw her, he went, I want her pretty, please. Rose down bad. But with his charms and his good looks and great aura, he raised the lady. So much so, they decided to get married and to move in together in a new house. Like normal married couples do, I guess. But the place they wanted to move into was in shambles and needed very expensive renovations done in order to keep up with the flashy and bougie image of Oscar. And when these renovations were going on, they were also going on at it in a different room, and they popped out 2 sons, Cyril and Vivian. But after Vivian's birth, they could no longer afford to have any more kids because they spent all their money on getting those renovations done. So they decided to not have any more kids and cease their sexual relations. Yeah, that was their solution. To show off a bougie home, they basically threw their marriage in a bin. And not just that, ceasing relations with his wife was the main reason why Oscar threw himself so intensely into the underground homosexual community of London. And here he met another man, Robert Ross, a 17-year-old gay man who was already a big fan of Wilde's books and poems, and hence he was very eager to seduce him, and he was successful. So this was the official entry of Oscar Wilde into the homosexual world. And Robert Ross? So on one of these nights, one of Oscar's friend brought his own cousin to Oscar's home for a dinner. Yeah, this cousin was Lord Alfred Bruce Douglas, or lovingly called as Bosie. And in no time, Oscar became obsessed with Bosie. And Bosie, he belonged to a very powerful and a very noble Scottish family. He was the 3rd child of Marquess of Queensberry, who was a very powerful and openly a very homophobic man. But his son Bosie, well, during his teenage years, due to his good looks and feminine aura, he was very popular among other boys at school. Lovingly, he was given the title of Throatmaster 3000. And after school, when Bosie went to Oxford, he became even more popular among boys of Oxford. Oscar very famously wrote about him as, Bosie wasn't just a man, he was a service. He never spoke history, he swallowed it. Oscar Wilde. Another very famous Oscar Wilde quote is, a man who cannot come up with an Oscar Wilde quote on demand to back his own argument is not a real man. Oscar Wilde again. So within 6 months of their first meeting, Bosie and Wilde were officially a pair, very well known within the gay underground community of London. And although they were very close emotionally, their sexual relationship was fairly brief and dry, no pun intended. And as their physical relations tapered down, Wilde sought sexual fulfillment elsewhere. Yet again. But this time, Bosie was there to help him. He used to send various rent boys, or as one may call them, prostitute, or husband, or delivery man. You get the point. And this went on for some years. And then in 1893, Bosie decided to leave Oxford and abandon his degree because his grades were down the drain and the only homework he did was other boys. And his dropping out of Oxford pissed off his parents, and rightfully so, especially his father, Marquess of Queensberry. You see, he was a very short-tempered man and he blamed Oscar's relationship with his son as the sole cause of him dropping out of Oxford. So he hated him for that. And by this time, Bosie also started to have regular fights with Oscar, just like any other couple. And one time, Oscar became so angry with Bosie during an argument that he wrote a letter to Bosie's mother, basically saying, hello, my lady, your son's stupid, he wastes your money and my money, ask him to get a job. And his mother replied, fair enough. So Bosie was sent off to Egypt for work, and there, Robert Ross, remember this guy? He introduced Bosie and Wilde, remember? Yeah, he. So this time he introduced Bosie to another man, a 16-year-old boy. Yeah, and when this boy's father found out about his friendship with Bosie, he went straight to the police, but dropped the charges to keep his own son out of prison. So Bosie had to say goodbye to Egypt and skedaddled his way way back into Britain, and this made Queensberry very paranoid. His son was back in town and in contact with Wilde again. So one night he got very frustrated and marched into Wilde's home and had a shouting match with him, which went like this: Oscar, Lord Queensberry, do you seriously accuse your son and me of improper conduct? Queensberry, I do not say you are, but you look like one, and you pose like one, which is just as bad. Oscar, what do you mean, good sir? Queensberry, all I'm saying is...
Why are you gay?
And after exchanging some not so kind words, when going out of his house, he threatened him and said, "And if I catch you again with my son, I will make a public scandal out of it in a way you little dream of." But Oscar was way too popular and way too confident to get scared of some stupid threats, so he continued his relationship with Bosie like nothing ever happened. Also, last video about Kafka just blew up. Thanks for that. But now please like the video to help me with the algorithm so I can make more of these. Moving on, and 1 year went by, and by this time, Oscar had written another play, The Importance of Being Earnest, and it was obviously another very successful play from him. So he decided to have a premiere of it just for his friends and elite and powerful members of society. Queensberry saw this as a perfect opportunity and decided to teach him a lesson. He came up with a plan, and it was to throw a card at him during the premiere, which said, "For Oscar Wilde, posing as a sodomite." Now, to be honest, I would not be very angry if I got that card someday, because I don't know the meaning of that word. But Oscar Wilde did, so he was very angry. And for people who are like me, Cambridge Dictionary explains the word as a person who practices... yeah. So you better know, when Wilde got that card in public and read it, he was fuming. This was an attempt to tarnish his image. This was unacceptable. He should seek revenge. But almost everyone around him advised him to let it go. Basically, no one would believe Queensberry. Everyone knows that he's a short-tempered madman after all. So his friends advised, just tear the damn card down and move on with your life, mate. But Wilde got panicked and decided to sue Queensberry for public defamation. So using all his money, he found a very good lawyer and told him that, "Believe me, I am not gay. I don't know what Queensberry's on about." The lawyer said, "I see. So you are not a sodomite. Are you sure, sir?" "Yeah, I'm sure you So it is set. Queensberry and Wilde are going to face each other in court. On April 3rd, 1895, the trial began, and the lawyer representing Queensberry happens to be a man called Edward Carson, and he was an old rival of Wilde from his college days, so he was very excited to ruin Wilde's life and his career. So he started by grilling Wilde and his character, and Oscar just lied as soon as he walked in front of the court for some wild reason. See what I did there? So, the first lie that he told to the court was that he was 39. Here is the actual transcript from his trial. Carson says, "You stated at the commencement of your examination that you were 39 years of age. I think you are over 40. Isn't that so?" Wilde, "I don't think so. I think I am either 39 or 40. 40 my next birthday. If you have my certificate there, that settles the matter." Carson, "You were born, I believe, upon the 16th of October 1854? Wilde, "Yes, and I have no intention of posing for a younger man at all. I try to be correct in the date." Carson, "It makes you somewhat over 40. Wilde, very well. Great start, Oscar, great start. But Wilde was adamant that he can talk his way out of this mess. After all, that's what he did for a living. But Carson went on full personal attack. He says, "Have you ever adored a young man some 20 years younger than yourself? Madly?" "No, not madly, not madly." Carson, "Well, adored him? I have loved one friend in my life." "You asked me to take your own phrase. Adored? I prefer loved. That is higher." "Adored, sir. And I say loved. It is greater. Never mind going higher. Keep down to the level of your own words. Keep your own words to yourself. Leave me mine. Don't put words to me I haven't said." "I beg your pardon. I am putting your own words at your own request." So he was kinda successful in dazzling around Carson's questions and not answering them correctly. But the very next day, day 2, was the fateful day when Carson came prepared. Remember those rent boys Bosie used to send to Oscar? Yeah, one of those, Walter Granger, was located by Carson, and he used him as a bait to prove Oscar's gay tendencies. He asked about him, saying, "Did you ever kiss him?" "Oh no, never in my life. He was a particularly plain boy." He was a what? I said I thought him, unfortunately, his appearance was so very, unfortunately, very ugly. I mean, I pitied him for it. Very ugly? Yes. And right here, Carson has got him, and Wilde knows that he has fumbled. So Carson continues, very ugly? Yes. Do you say that in support of your statement that you never kissed him? No, I don't. It is like asking me if I kissed a doorpost. It is childish. Didn't you give me as the reason that you never kissed him that he was too ugly? No. Why did you mention his ugliness then? No, I said the question seemed to me like you're asking me whether I ever had him to dinner and then whether I had kissed him, seeming to me merely as an intentional insult on your part, which I have been going through the whole of this morning. Because he was ugly? No. Why did you mention his ugliness? I have to ask these questions. I say it is ridiculous to imagine that any such thing could possibly have occurred under any circumstances. Why did you mention his ugliness? At this point, he knew he has fumbled too much. There is no going back from here. He couldn't defend himself like this. Calling someone too ugly to kiss insinuates that there would have been a situation where he would have kissed the boy if he was good looking. So he knew that it was a losing battle from now on. So he withdrew the case and Queensberry was declared not guilty. But that is not the end of it. You see, being gay was a crime in England at the time, so an arrest warrant had issued against him. He was now a criminal because he was gay. All his popularity took a nosedive. He became insanely infamous and he was sentenced to 2 years of hard labor. But after 1 year of prison time, he was to be transferred to another prison for the remaining 1 year. And when the cops were taking him to another prison by train, they waited on the train station, and some passing by people recognized him as Oscar Wilde, and they cursed him, spat on him, verbally harassed him for an hour straight for being gay, and only left him when the train was there. And this incident left Wilde in so much trauma. But this was not his end. What happened to Bosie? What happened to Oscar after his 2 years of prison? What happened to his wife and 2 kids? Oscar Wilde's story gets 10 times crazier from here, but it's too long for one video to cover. For now, like the video to let the algorithm know that you'd like to see the next part of this video. Bye.